Hi, boys and girls, and welcome to today's Read Aloud. Today's story is another Miss Nelson book, like I promised, by Harry Allard and James Marshall. This one is Miss Nelson is Back. Wonder what's going to happen today. Miss Nelson is Back. Miss Nelson is Back by Harry Allard and James Marshall. One Friday, Miss Nelson told her class that she was going to have her tonsils out. "I'll be away next week," she said, "and I expect you to behave." "Yes, Miss Nelson," said the kids in 207. I sure do hope that they behave themselves. But at recess, it was another story. "Wow," said the kids, "while Miss Nelson is away, we can really act up." "Not so fast," said a big kid from 309. "Haven't you ever heard of Viola Swamp?" "Who?" said Miss Nelson's kids. "Miss Swamp is the meanest substitute in the world," said the big kid. "Nobody acts up when she's around." "Ooh," said Miss Nelson's kids. "She's a real witch," said the big kid. "Ooh," said Miss Nelson's kids. "I'll just bet you get the swamp," said the big kid. On Monday morning, Miss Nelson's kids were all in their seats. They were very nervous. Some of them had not slept all weekend. "If we get the swamp, I'll just die," said one kid. They heard footsteps in the hall. Uh-oh. Slowly, the knob turned. Dun, 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 and the door opened. Dot, dot, dot. Doesn't look like Miss Viola Swamp. It was Mr. Blansworth, the principal. "I shall personally take over this class," he said. Miss Nelson's kids were so relieved, but they soon learned that Mr. Blansworth was not a lot of fun. Uh-oh. All morning, Mr. Blansworth tried to amuse the class with his corny card tricks. "Oh, brother," said the class. That afternoon, Mr. Blansworth showed the class his favorite shadow pictures. "This is kid stuff," said the class. The next day, Mr. Blansworth demonstrated his favorite bird calls. They were not a success. And for 2 days, Mr. Blansworth showed slides of his goldfish, Lucille. Miss Nelson's kids had never been so bored. While dusting erasers in the schoolyard, 3 of the ringleaders of 207 discussed the situation. "Something will have to be done," they said. "We must get rid of Mr. Blansworth." And they hatched a plot. Uh-oh. So, boys and girls, I don't know if you know what this means. Dusting erasers. Back in my day, when I was a kid, we used real chalkboards with real chalk. We didn't have dry erase boards. And we used the same types of erasers that they use nowadays with dry erase boards, but they would become really dusty with the chalk dust inside them. So sometimes the teachers would allow us to take them and we would kind of smack them together to get all the dust out. And so that's what they were doing. They were dusting the school erasers. And then a ringleader is kind of like the leader of a naughty group, right? That is going to hatch up a not so good plan. All right, let's see what else happened. After school, they painted and sewed and borrowed some old clothes. And they practiced some very difficult stunt work in the backyard. So now I'm thinking they're making clothes and they're all stacked on top of one another, almost like they want to be a tall person. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Let's see. The next day, they weren't in class. "That's too bad," said Mr. Blansworth. "They'll miss all the excitement." Mr. Blansworth was about to show the class his collection of ballpoint pens from all over the world when someone came to the door. Oh goodness, another real snooze fest right here. Slowly the knob turned and the door opened. Dot, dot, dot. Uh-oh. Oh, look, said the class. Miss Nelson is back. A tall and lumpy Miss Nelson tottered into the room. And look at her feet. They're the size of child's feet. And look at her arms. They're like super short. And she's all lumpy and bumpy. I'm thinking that maybe back here on this page, remember when they tried this? Who do you think this Miss Nelson is? Mr. Blansworth was surprised. You're back sooner than we expected, he said. The tall and lumpy Miss Nelson didn't speak. Said the kids. Her throat must still be sore. Are you sure you're well enough? Said Mr. Blansworth. She's sure, said the kids. Well, in that case, said the principal, I'll be getting back to the office. Nice to have you back, Miss Nelson. And he left the room. Hot dog, cried the class. We got rid of Mr. Blansworth. Now we can just do as we please. And at the stroke of 10, the kids from 207 left the building, and no one stopped them. They went straight to the movies, where they saw the monster that ate Chicago twice. This is really living, they said. Afterwards, they went to Lulu's, where they stuffed themselves silly, but soon they made a serious mistake. Uh-oh, so they went to the ice cream place. What do you think the serious mistake was? Not sure. I don't see the lumpy Mrs. Nelson anymore. Maybe they took her apart and now they have no supervisor. Uh-oh. Let's see what it was. Nope, they still have her. Miss Nelson, heading back to school, they passed Miss Nelson's house. Oh, that's what the mistake was. Miss Nelson couldn't believe her eyes. Those are my kids, she said in a scratchy voice. What are they doing out of school? And who's that with them? Miss Nelson telephoned Mr. Blansworth to see what was going on. You're not Miss Nelson, said Mr. Blansworth. Miss Nelson is back. And he hung up. Can't fool me, he said. Said Miss Nelson. Something will have to be done. And she went to her closet. Oh! Let's see what happens. Back in 207, the kids were spending an agreeable afternoon. They were very pleased with themselves. We should do this more often, they said. They did not notice the figure out in the hall. Slowly the knob turned and the door opened. Dot, dot, dot. Could it be? What do you think? My name is Viola Swamp, said the lady in the scratchy voice. Yikes, cried the kids. The swamp! That's right, said Miss Swamp. And I'm here to whip this class into shape. Get back to those desks on the double. The class did as it was told. The big kid from 309 was certainly right. Miss Swamp was a real witch. Ooh! She knew how to get results. The class did a whole week's work in no time. We shouldn't have gotten rid of Blansworth, they said. Pipe down, said the Swamp, or... Just then something under a desk attracted her attention. It was a mask. Aha, said Miss Swamp. So that's your little game. And she tried on the mask, just as Mr. Blansworth stepped into the room. Miss Nelson, said Mr. Blansworth, I'm of the opinion that someone has been impersonating you. Whispered the kids. You don't say, said Miss Swamp. Probably just some kids acting up. I'm sure it won't happen again. And Mr. Blansworth left. And it won't, will it? Said Miss Swamp to the class. Because the swamp will be watching. A minute later, Miss Nelson appeared. I'm back, she said. Hot dog, cried the kids. Are we glad to see you? Didn't you have fun with Mr. Blansworth? Asked Miss Nelson. Uh, said the kids. They decided not to mention Miss Viola Swamp, but they wondered why Miss Nelson hadn't seen her in the hall. And we know why, don't we? All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this lovely book. Another one in the series. Okay, we will see you for tomorrow's story time. Have a good day.